The rain had been falling for hours, a persistent, rhythmic patter that echoed off the winding roads of the small town of Greenwick. It was the kind of evening where the sky's dreariness seeped into the very core of the town, shrouding it in a veil of gray. The streetlights flickered on one by one, casting an eerie glow on the wet pavement below. Ravenwood High, an imposing structure of red brick and ivy, stood at the heart of this sleepy town, its shadow stretching across the lawn as if trying to escape its own past. Inside the school, the corridors were a labyrinth of silence and shadows. The typical hustle and bustle of students was absent, replaced by the lonely echoes of distant footsteps. It was spring break, and while most students had escaped to sunny beaches or cozy cabins, a select few remained tethered to the town. Among them was Elena Rivera, a 17-year-old with a penchant for unraveling mysteries and a reputation for finding trouble where there seemingly was none. Elena stood in the dimly lit hallway outside the library, her dark hair pulled back in a loose ponytail, a few rebellious strands framing her face. She wore a well-worn leather jacket over a simple black t-shirt, jeans, and her trusty pair of combat boots. Her sharp, inquisitive eyes scanned her surroundings with the practiced ease of someone used to being alone in places where most wouldn't dare tread after dark. She had agreed to meet her best friend, Jake Hollis, in the library. As Elena pushed open the heavy wooden door of the library, the warm glow of a single lamp cast a pool of light on the mahogany table where Jake sat, engrossed in a thick tome. The rest of the library was cloaked in shadow, the tall shelves lined with books that held the whispers and secrets of generations of students. "Hey," Elena said softly, closing the door behind her. The soft click echoed in the still room. Jake looked up, his glasses slipping slightly down his nose. He pushed them up with a finger and gave her a crooked smile. "You're late." Elena shrugged, dropping her bag on the table with a thud. "Had to make sure my mom didn't suspect anything. She's still convinced I'm at the cinema with Sarah." Jake chuckled, marking his place in the book with a slip of paper. "Well, I think this is going to be way more interesting than any movie." Elena pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "So, what did you find?" Jake's eyes lit up with excitement, and he leaned forward, lowering his voice as if the books themselves were eavesdropping. "You know Mr. Donovan, the history teacher?" Elena nodded. Mr. Donovan was known for his eccentric lectures and a fondness for stories that seemed too wild to be true. "Yeah, he's the one who insists that half the town's buildings are haunted." "Exactly. But get this," Jake continued. "I found out that he used to be a part of a local historical society. They were researching the origins of the town and stumbled upon something odd." Jake pulled out a notebook and flipped through the pages, tapping a finger on a paragraph he'd copied from an old report. Apparently, there was a mention of a hidden chamber beneath Ravenwood High, constructed in the late 1800s. It was supposed to house something of great importance, but the location was lost over time. Helena leaned back, crossing her arms. Hidden chamber. That sounds like something straight out of a novel." Jake nodded, his expression serious. "I know it sounds far-fetched, but there are records of tunnels and hidden rooms in other buildings from that era. If there's even a chance that it's true." Elena grinned, feeling the familiar thrill of a mystery unraveling before her. "Then we have to find it." Jake hesitated, looking around the empty library. "We have to be careful, Elena. The school's old and some parts might not be safe. Plus, if we get caught, she waved a hand dismissively. We won't get caught. Besides, isn't this what we've always wanted? A real adventure? Jake couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. Despite his reservations, he felt the same pull, the same irresistible urge to discover the unknown. All right, let's do it. But we need to plan this out. We'll start by checking the basement. Elena nodded, already mentally mapping out their route. The basement it is. We can sneak in tomorrow night. Most of the staff will be gone for the break. With their plans set, the two spent the remainder of the evening poring over floor plans and old documents, their shared curiosity leading them deeper into the enigma of Ravenwood High. Little did they know, the night would soon bring revelations neither of them could have anticipated, setting them on a path that would challenge their courage and unearth secrets buried long ago. As the clock struck midnight, Elena and Jake packed up their things, the library's atmosphere thick with anticipation and unspoken questions. They left quietly, their footsteps echoing in the deserted hallways. The rain had subsided, leaving the air crisp and cool as they stepped outside. Standing at the school's entrance, Elena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. You ready for this, Jake? He adjusted his glasses, his eyes gleaming with determination. As ready as I'll ever be. With that, they turned their backs on the darkened school, unaware of the unseen eyes watching from the shadows, or the mysteries that awaited them beneath the hallowed halls of Ravenwood High. The morning sun filtered through Elena's curtains, casting delicate patterns across the walls of her room. She sat at her desk, a fresh notebook open, its pages inviting her to capture the secrets of Ravenwood High. The events of the previous night lingered in her mind like an unsolved puzzle, each piece urging her to fit it into the larger narrative she sensed was hidden beneath the school's polished surface. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Jake. Meet at the coffee shop? Got something to show you? A thrill of anticipation coursed through her. Jake's excitement was infectious, and she couldn't wait to uncover what new piece of the mystery he had discovered. Elena quickly got dressed, opting for comfort over style, which was her usual choice when preparing for a day of sleuthing. Her reflection in the mirror showed a face alight with determination, her eyes gleaming with the promise of adventure. She grabbed her backpack already packed with essentials like a flashlight, notebook, and her favorite pen. The coffee shop was a cozy nook nestled between a bookstore and a vintage clothing store on the corner of Main Street. Its walls were lined with bookshelves, and the air was filled with the rich aroma of brewing coffee. Elena spotted Jake at a corner table, his laptop open and several books scattered around him. Hey, Elena! Jake greeted her with a broad smile as she approached. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his glasses perched precariously on his nose, giving him a scholarly yet approachable look. What did you find? Elena asked, sliding into the seat opposite him. Jake leaned forward, lowering his voice as if to shield their conversation from prying ears. I was up half the night searching online for anything related to Ravenwood High. I found some old articles and a couple of forum posts about strange happenings there. But the real find was this. He turned the laptop towards her, revealing a grainy black and white photograph of a group of people standing in front of the school. This was taken over 50 years ago. Recognizing Elena studied the image, her eyes tracing the faces frozen in time. It was an old school photo, the students and staff captured in a moment of history. Her heart skipped a beat when she noticed a familiar face. Isn't that Mr. Grayson, the janitor? Jake nodded, his eyes bright with excitement. Exactly. But here's the thing. According to the school records, he hasn't been working there for more than 20 years. How was he in this picture from 50 years ago? Elena's mind raced with possibilities. Maybe it's a relative, or maybe the records are wrong. Jake shook his head, his expression serious. I thought of that too, but I checked the archives. There's no record of him before the 1990s and no family members listed either. It's like he appeared out of nowhere. Elena leaned back in her chair, her mind buzzing with questions. So, what do we do now? We can't just walk up to him and ask how he's managed to defy time. Exactly, Jake agreed. We need more information before confronting him. I think we should dig deeper into the school's history. Maybe there's something in those old files we found yesterday that we missed. Elena nodded, her resolve strengthening. Let's go back to the library tonight. If Mr. Grayson is connected to whatever secrets the school is hiding, we need to find out how. As they sipped their coffees, the plan for the evening took shape. They would return to the library, their base of operations, and search for more clues. Each had a part to play in this unfolding mystery, and together they formed a team that was determined to uncover the truth. The day passed in a blur of classes and whispered conversations, each moment spent preparing for the night's adventure. Elena found herself repeatedly glancing at the clock, her anticipation building with every tick of the second hand. She and Jake exchanged knowing looks during lunch, both eager to dive back into the mystery. When the final bell rang, freeing them from the confines of the classroom, Elena and Jake met at their lockers, exchanging quick nods of understanding. They waited until the halls emptied, the students dispersing into the afternoon sun, before making their way to the library. The library was quiet, its aisles lined with the accumulated knowledge of decades. The atmosphere was charged with the promise of discovery as they entered, their footsteps muffled by the carpeted floor. Mrs. Thompson, the librarian, gave them a polite nod before returning to her own work, leaving them to their research. They settled into their usual spot at the far end of the library, near the dusty archives section where old yearbooks and school newspapers were stored. Elena pulled out the notebooks they had left behind the previous night, flipping through the pages filled with notes and sketches. Okay, Jake said, pulling a folder from his bag. I printed out some of the stuff I found online. Let's see if we can connect any of it with what we have here. They worked in silence, the only sounds the rustle of paper and the soft tapping of keys as Jake cross-referenced their findings on his laptop. The minutes stretched into hours, the daylight outside fading into twilight, and still, they found nothing concrete. Elena rubbed her eyes, frustration beginning to set in. Maybe we're missing something obvious, she mused aloud. Something that's right in front of us. Jake looked up, his brow furrowed. Or maybe we're looking in the wrong place. What if it's not in the documents or the school records? What if there's something here, in this library, that we're not seeing? Elena considered his words, her gaze drifting over the rows of books surrounding them. What if there's a hidden section, like a secret compartment or a false shelf? Jake's eyes lit up at the suggestion. It's worth checking. Libraries used to have hidden places for rare books or restricted texts. Let's do a sweep of the shelves. They began their search, moving systematically through the aisles, tapping on shelves and pulling at the spines of books to see if any of them were decoys. The task was daunting, the sheer volume of books overwhelming, but neither was willing to admit defeat. As they neared the back of the library, Elena noticed something peculiar. A section of the wall looked different, the wood paneling slightly misaligned. "Jake, over here," she whispered, gesturing for him to join her. Jake hurried over, his eyes widening as he saw what she had found. "Looks like something's been moved here. Help me push." Together, they applied their weight to the panel, feeling it give way under their combined force. With a soft creak, the panel swung open, revealing a narrow passageway hidden behind the bookshelf. The air inside was cool and musty, untouched by the circulation of the library. Helena grabbed her flashlight, illuminating the narrow corridor that stretched beyond. "Looks like we found our hidden section," she said, her voice tinged with awe. Jake peered into the darkness, his excitement palpable. "Let's see where this leads." They stepped into the passage, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. The corridor was lined with old portraits, their subjects staring down with expressions lost to time. The air was thick with dust, and the beams from their flashlights revealed more cobwebs than Elena cared to count. At the end of the passage, they found themselves in a small chamber. Shelves lined the walls, filled with ancient books and documents that looked as if they hadn't been touched in decades. In the center of the room was a large wooden table, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. "Wow," Jake breathed, running a hand over the spines of the books. "This place must have been hidden for a long time. Look at this stuff." Elena picked up a leather-bound journal, its cover cracked and faded. She carefully opened it, revealing pages filled with dense, looping script. "These are records," she murmured, flipping through the pages. "But they're not just school records. These are personal accounts, detailing events that happened here." Jake joined her at the table, his eyes scanning the entries. "There's something about a society, a group that used to meet here. It looks like they were involved in some kind of experiment." Elena's curiosity intensified. "Experiment? What kind of experiment?" Jake read further, his voice tinged with disbelief. "It doesn't say exactly, but there's a lot of mention of time and aging. It's almost like they were trying to stop it or reverse it somehow." Elena felt a chill run down her spine, her mind racing back to Mr. Grayson and the photograph that had started this investigation. Could it be possible that the janitor, who seemed untouched by the years, was somehow connected to these experiments? "We need to take these with us," she decided, closing the journal and slipping it into her backpack. "There's too much here to understand in one night. We'll need time to go through it all." Jake nodded, carefully selecting a few documents to take with them. "Let's get out of here before someone notices we're gone." As they made their way back through the passage, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of what Ravenwood High was hiding. The discovery of the hidden chamber raised more questions than it answered, and she couldn't help but wonder what other secrets the school might be concealing. Emerging from the passage into the familiar confines of the library, they carefully closed the panel behind them, ensuring it looked undisturbed. Elena's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, her heart pounding with the thrill of discovery. Stepping outside, they were greeted by the cool night air, the stars twinkling overhead like silent witnesses to their adventure. The world seemed unchanged, oblivious to the secrets they had unearthed within the school's walls. As they walked away from Ravenwood High, Elena felt a new sense of purpose settle over her. Whatever lay at the heart of this mystery, she was determined to uncover it. And with Jake by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. "Ready for another round tomorrow?" Jake asked, a grin playing at the corners of his lips. Elena returned his smile, her eyes sparkling with determination. "You bet. We're just getting started." The first pink hues of dawn began to illuminate the small town of Ravenwood, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns and neat rows of homes. Elena awoke with a start, the thrill of the previous night's discovery still thrumming through her veins. She lay in bed for a moment, staring at the ceiling as the events replayed in her mind. The hidden passage, the secret room, the flickering candlelight casting eerie patterns on the stone walls. Determined not to let this adventure become just another dream lost to the morning light, she sprang out of bed, her feet hitting the wooden floor with a resolute thump. She pulled on a pair of jeans and a faded hoodie, checking her phone to find several messages from Jake. They were a mixture of excitement and questions, each one punctuated with the kind of enthusiasm only a shared secret could inspire. "Meet at the park," one message read, accompanied by a string of exclamation points. "On my way," she typed back swiftly, grabbing her backpack and heading downstairs. As she passed through the kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee greeted her. Her mother sat at the table, engrossed in the morning newspaper, a look of concentrated curiosity on her face. "Morning, Mom," Elena chirped, attempting to appear as carefree as possible. "Morning, sweetheart," her mother replied, not looking up from the paper. "Any plans for today?" "Just meeting Jake at the park," Elena answered, trying to keep her voice casual. "Probably just hang out and maybe do some homework." Her mother nodded, seemingly satisfied, and returned to her reading. Elena slipped out the door, the cool morning air bringing a slight chill that heightened her senses. The path to the park was a familiar one, winding through quiet streets lined with old oak trees that whispered secrets only the wind understood. When she arrived, Jake was already there, pacing back and forth along the edge of the playground, his hands stuffed in his pockets. He looked up as she approached, his face breaking into a wide grin. "There you are. I've been going crazy thinking about last night," he exclaimed, his eyes bright with excitement. "Me too," Elena agreed, matching his enthusiasm. "I couldn't stop thinking about what we found. It's like, what else could be hidden in that school?" They found a bench beneath a towering oak, its branches spreading like a protective canopy overhead. As they sat, a soft breeze rustled the leaves, creating a soothing backdrop for their conversation. "Okay, let's break this down," Jake began, leaning forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "We know there's a hidden passage in the library that leads to a secret room. But why? And who would go through so much trouble to conceal it?" Helena nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "There must be something important about that room, or maybe what it leads to. Do you remember those symbols carved into the stone walls? They looked like some kind of ancient script." "Yeah, I've been thinking about those," Jake said thoughtfully. "They reminded me of something I saw in a book once. Some kind of old language or code, maybe. We should try to find out what they mean." Elena's eyes lit up with determination. And the room itself. There were shelves filled with old books and artifacts. We need to take a closer look at those. Who knows what kind of secrets are hidden in those pages? Jake agreed, his mind already formulating a plan. We should go back tonight when the school is empty. We can bring a camera and some notebooks, document everything we find. Elena's heart quickened at the thought of another adventure. Yeah, and maybe we can figure out what those symbols mean. If they're a code, maybe they'll lead us to something even bigger. The anticipation of their next endeavor filled the air with a palpable energy. Elena spent the afternoon scouring the internet and the few books she had at home, searching for anything that might resemble the symbols they had seen. It was a tedious process, and as the hours slipped by, she grew increasingly frustrated by the lack of answers. Despite this, her resolve only strengthened. Whatever secrets were hidden within Ravenwood High were waiting to be discovered, and she was determined to unravel them. As the day gave way to evening, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink, Elena prepared for her second foray into the unknown. She packed a small flashlight, a notebook, and her phone, ensuring it was fully charged. Her heart thudded with a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. What if they were caught? Or worse, what if they discovered something they weren't prepared to face? These thoughts buzzed in her mind as she slipped out of the house, careful not to alert her parents to her departure. The streets were quiet, the town settling into the stillness of the night. "Ready?" he asked, his voice a low whisper full of anticipation. "Ready," Elena replied, matching his tone. Together, they approached the school, its imposing structure looming like a sentinel against the night sky. The building was silent, every shadow and creak amplified in the stillness. They entered through the side door, which they had discovered earlier was prone to being left unlocked by the janitorial staff. The hallway was bathed in a ghostly half-light, the moon casting eerie shadows through the windows. Elena's pulse quickened as they moved with silent footsteps toward the library, every creak of the floorboards making her jump. Once inside, they carefully approached the hidden panel, their movements slow and deliberate. With a practiced touch, they opened it, revealing the passageway that led to the secret room. The air was cool and slightly musty, carrying with it the scent of old paper and forgotten stories. As they stepped into the chamber, the faint light of their flashlights danced across the walls, illuminating the symbols that had captured their imagination. Elena traced her fingers over the carvings, feeling the grooves and curves beneath her touch. "Let's start with these," Jake suggested, opening his notebook and jotting down the symbols. "Maybe we can find a pattern or something later." Elena nodded, focusing her attention on the shelves lining the walls. The books were ancient, their spines cracked and faded with age. She picked one up, its cover embossed with gold lettering that had long since worn away. "What do you think these are?" she asked, holding the book up for Jake to see. He joined her, peering at the text. "No idea. But they must be important if they're hidden down here." They spent the next hour meticulously documenting everything they could find: symbols, books, artifacts, each discovery adding another layer to the mystery. As they worked, a sense of urgency began to creep in, a feeling that they were racing against something unseen. Finally, as they stood back to survey their work, Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. "Do you feel that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake paused, glancing around the room. "Yeah, it's like we're being watched." The thought sent a chill through Elena, but she shook it off. "We've got what we need for now. Let's get out of here and see if we can figure out any of this." They carefully retraced their steps, closing the panel behind them and slipping out of the library into the waiting night. As they walked across the school grounds, The thrill of the mystery was tempered by an unsettling feeling that lingered in the air. Do you think we'll find out what all this means? Elena asked, her voice low as they moved through the shadows. Definitely, Jake replied with certainty. We've got a good lead. We just need to keep digging. As they parted ways at the edge of the park, Elena's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. There was something about this discovery that felt bigger than anything she had imagined. Whatever secrets Ravenwood High held, she and Jake were determined to uncover them, no matter what shadows they had to face along the way. Back at home, Elena settled into bed, her mind racing with possibilities. Her dreams that night were filled with cryptic symbols and hidden doorways, the promise of answers just out of reach. And as the first light of dawn crept across her room, she awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. They were on the brink of something extraordinary, and she knew, deep in her bones, that they were only just beginning to unravel the tapestry of secrets woven into the very fabric of Ravenwood High. Chapter 4. The Unraveling Threads of Ravenwood High. The morning air was crisp, a gentle reminder of the transitional dance between summer's lingering warmth and autumn's approaching chill. Elena and Jake had agreed to meet before school to discuss their next steps. The park, where they had separated the previous night, now seemed like a common ground, a place where reality and mystery converged in a delicate balance. As she walked towards their meeting spot, her thoughts were consumed by the potential of their discovery. What lay beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary school? What stories had woven themselves into the very walls, waiting to be told? Jake was already there, leaning against the trunk of an old oak, a picture of nonchalance despite the undercurrent of excitement. Elena knew he felt. His backpack, usually worn and filled with the detritus of a high school life, seemed heavier today, weighted with the significance of their mission. As she approached, he looked up, his face breaking into a grin that mirrored her own anticipation. "Morning, Detective," Jake greeted, pushing himself off the tree with a casual grace that belied the tension of their situation. "Morning," Elena replied, her voice light yet tinged with the seriousness of their task. "Did you find anything else last night?" "A bit," he admitted, pulling out a folded sheet of paper from his pocket. "I couldn't sleep, so I did some more digging online. Found a reference to a group called the Ravenwood Society, supposedly a secret club that met in the school during the 1960s. Can you believe that?" Elena's eyes widened with intrigue. Ravenwood Society? Sounds like something straight out of a mystery novel. What did they do? "Well, that's the thing," Jake said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper despite the emptiness of the park. "No one knows for sure. The articles I found were vague, mentioning gatherings and secret meetings, but no specifics. It's like it was purposely erased from history." Helena's mind raced with possibilities. A secret society at their school? The idea was thrilling, but the lack of information only added to the enigma. "Do you think they're connected to what we found in the basement?" Jake shrugged, though his eyes gleamed with excitement. "It's possible. I mean, why else would there be hidden rooms and symbols if not for some secret club or society? We need to find out more about this group and see if there are any connections to the symbols we saw." They began walking towards the school, their minds churning with thoughts and plans. The day felt different, charged with a purpose that transcended their usual routine. As they approached the imposing facade of Ravenwood High, the old brick building seemed to hum with secrets, its history whispering through the corridors like a persistent echo. Inside, The school was already bustling with the morning rush of students, the chaotic dance of teenagers navigating their way through lockers and classrooms. Yet, beneath the surface of normalcy, Elena felt the weight of the mystery they were unraveling. It was as if they had peeled back a layer of the mundane, exposing the intricate web of stories and secrets that lay beneath. Their first class was history, fittingly enough, and Elena found herself more attentive than usual. The topic was local history, a subject she had previously found dull but now regarded with renewed interest. As the teacher droned on about the town's founding, Elena's mind drifted to the Ravenwood Society, wondering if their story had somehow woven itself into the fabric of the town's past. After class, they reconvened in a quiet corner of the library, a sanctuary of dusty books and hushed whispers. It was their usual spot, away from prying eyes and curious ears. Jake spread out his research, the sheets of paper crisscrossed with notes and scribbles, a testament to his late-night efforts. "Here's what I found," Jake said, pointing to a photocopied page from an old newspaper. "This article mentions a secret gathering at Ravenwood High, but it's all speculation. No names, no specifics." Elena leaned closer, her eyes scanning the faded text. "It's a start," she mused, her mind working to piece together the fragmented puzzle. "We need more information, though. Something concrete." "Agreed," Jake replied, tapping a finger against his chin thoughtfully. "Maybe the school archives have something. Old yearbooks, newspapers, anything that could give us a clue." The idea was sound, and Elena nodded, her resolve heartening. They decided to make their move during lunch, when the school was at its most chaotic, and their absence would go unnoticed. The hours leading up to their expedition dragged on, each class an eternity as they eagerly anticipated their descent into history. Finally, the lunch bell rang, and they slipped away from the cafeteria, moving swiftly through the corridors towards the janitor's office. As they reached the door, Elena felt her heart quicken with anticipation. The door was closed, but not locked, a fortuitous stroke of luck that sent a thrill through her. They quickly slipped inside, closing the door behind them with a soft click. The basement was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of old paper and dust. Shelves stretched out before them in neat rows, each filled with the weight of history, the stories of those who had walked the corridors of Ravenwood before them. "Okay," Jake said, his voice an excited whisper as they navigated their way through the shelves. "We're looking for anything from the 1960s. Yearbooks, newspapers, anything." They split up, each diving into their respective sections with determination. The faces within were unfamiliar, yet strangely haunting, their eyes frozen in time, staring out from the pages with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. She scanned the names, looking for any mention of the Ravenwood Society, but found nothing. Frustrated, she set the book aside and continued her search. Across the room, Jake was poring over a stack of newspapers, his brow furrowed in concentration. Occasionally he would mutter something under his breath, his fingers tracing lines of text as if seeking some hidden meaning. Minutes stretched into an hour as they searched, their efforts seemingly in vain. Frustration nipped at Elena's patience, the weight of their mission pressing heavily on her shoulders. Just as she was about to concede defeat, a glimmer of something caught her eye. Tucked between two larger volumes was a slim, leather-bound journal, its cover embossed with an intricate design of a raven, wings unfurled as if in flight. It was beautiful in its simplicity, a book that seemed to breathe with the weight of secrets. Elena's heart leapt as she pulled it from the shelf, careful not to disturb the fragile binding. She opened it slowly, her eyes widening with each page she turned. The journal was filled with symbols similar to those they had found in the hidden room, alongside notes and sketches that hinted at meetings and rituals, gatherings beneath the cloak of darkness. "Jake," Elena called urgently, her voice echoing through the silent basement. He was at her side in an instant, eyes alight with curiosity as he peered over her shoulder. "What is it?" "Look," she said, pointing to a page filled with sketches and unfamiliar words. "This has to be connected to the Ravenwood Society. It's all here symbols, notes. Someone documented everything." Jake's eyes scanned the pages, his expression shifting from surprise to elation. "This is it, Elena. This could be the key to understanding what they were doing." They sat together on the dusty floor, their excitement palpable as they pored over the journal, piecing together the story of the mysterious society. Each page was a revelation, a glimpse into a world hidden beneath the veneer of their everyday lives. The journal spoke of meetings held in secret, of initiations and oaths. There were mentions of a sanctuary somewhere within the school, a place where knowledge was shared and guarded. The symbols they had seen in the basement were scattered throughout the pages, each meticulously drawn and annotated. Elena felt a shiver of anticipation, the feeling of being on the brink of a monumental discovery. There was something profound about this find, a connection that linked them to the past in ways she hadn't imagined. Yet, beneath the thrill of discovery lay a shadow of unease, the society's secrecy, their rituals. It all hinted at something deeper, something that perhaps wasn't meant to be uncovered. "What do you think they were doing?" Helena asked, her voice tinged with both excitement and trepidation. Jake considered her question, his gaze lingering on the pages before him. "I don't know," he admitted. "But whatever it was, they went to great lengths to keep it hidden. Maybe they were protecting something, or maybe they were afraid of what others would think." The gravity of his words hung between them, a reminder that their quest for answers might lead them down paths they weren't prepared to walk. Yet, the allure of the unknown was impossible to resist, a siren call that urged them forward. They spent the next hour transcribing notes and symbols, their minds alight with theories and possibilities. The journal, though a treasure trove of information, was only a piece of the puzzle. There was more to discover, more secrets waiting to be unveiled. As they prepared to leave, carefully replacing the journal on the shelf, Elena felt a sense of determination rekindle within her. They were on the cusp of something extraordinary, and she knew they had to see it through to the end. "Let's get out of here," Jake said, his voice low as they slipped towards the exit. "We'll come back later when we know what we're looking for." Elena nodded, her heart pounding with the thrill of their discovery. The day had taken on a new significance, the weight of history pressing down upon them with each step they took. As they emerged into the daylight, the world seemed sharper, more vivid. The school thrummed with life, its mundane rhythms a stark contrast to the mystery they had uncovered. Yet, beneath the surface, Elena sensed the pulse of secrets, the echoes of the past resonating through the present. They parted ways, each lost in thought, their minds racing with possibilities. The Ravenwood Society was no longer a shadowy figment of the past. It was a tangible part of their reality, a story waiting to be told. That night, Elena lay awake in bed, her mind spinning with the implications of their discovery. The journal, the symbols, the whispers of a secret society. They were all pieces of a larger puzzle, a tapestry of history woven into the very fabric of Ravenwood High. And as she drifted into a restless sleep, her dreams were once again filled with cryptic symbols and hidden doorways, the promise of answers just out of reach. But this time, she felt a sense of clarity, a guiding light leading her through the shadows. They were on the brink of something extraordinary, and she knew, deep in her bones, that they had only just begun to unravel the threads of mystery entwined with their lives. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but Elena and Jake were ready to face whatever secrets lay hidden in the shadows of Ravenwood High.